In my last video, I said I was giving these models a makeover. Not only will I be doing that, I'll also be giving my bolt action and Konflikt 47 American Force some much needed firepower. To start off, I did record a 40-minute long video, but it took up so much space on my phone that I couldn't transfer it to my laptop or any other app to edit it. Luckily, I did record a 12-minute long video and took a bunch of pictures of the process. So I'll be starting off with the flamethrower crew. For the operator's backpack, I used the bazooka arm from the model and cut it down to size at equal lengths. After that, I glued on a fire extinguisher bit from the M8 Greyhound kit and glued it between the two pieces. Now we have the backpack. For the nozzle, I used two M3 grease gun bits from the bolt action US starter set and cut them down to size, leaving only the tube. For one, I left the hand, but cut the other one out. For the nozzle part, I thought I would use a piece of Q-tip for the nozzle, but it looked a little too fat, so I used a piece of paper clip and cut it to length, then gluing both ends together, gluing the front of the grease gun with the hand on, and the back of the grease gun without the hand. To get it into the pose I wanted, I used an M1 carbine bit from the same kit and cut off the rifle, left arm, and right hand, only leaving the right arm to attach to the grease gun hand. For the left hand, I used two arm bits from the Konflikt 47 US kit. Warlord Games doesn't sell the starters anymore, but you can find them on Amazon and maybe other sellers. Another thing about the arms is that it has open hands. Great for this kitbash, but a pain when I was getting their weapons attached. But when I was trying to find an arm that could reach the other end of the nozzle, I found that every arm was too short, and I wasn't about to redo the nozzle of the flamethrower, so I used the longest stretched arm I could find, which was a pointing arm, and cut the hand and cuff off. Then I got an open hand arm and cut up past the cuff. I do prefer cutting off more than you should, because if you cut too short, you would need to use green stuff, and much like a majority of those watching, I don't have green stuff. But surprisingly, it was the right length, so no extra cutting was needed. Then I glued the pieces together. A cool thing about super glue is that it reacts quickly when water is applied, so that making attaching these pieces is so much easier, and I don't have to press the pieces together, only for the super glue to get on my fingers and causing the pieces to snap off when I try to remove my fingers from it. But once I glued the pieces together, I then attached it to the figure, and the flamethrower is done. Now let's get on with the assistant. The assistant is much more quicker than the flamethrower. In the game, the assistant can't take a weapon, but historically, the assistant carried a weapon with them for defensive purposes. So with that, I took a slung over carbine bit from the bolt action US starter box and glued it to his body. Along with that, I found a grenade throwing bit and cut the grenade out, leaving only the hand, then glued it into a position that made it look like he was just walking. And with that, we're done with the flamethrower team. I think I did a really good job with these two. I know it looks messy, but with a little bit of primer to make it uniform, it will look perfect. Let's get on with the second kit bash. For the second kit bash, I decided to do a forward observer, as it can provide aerial or artillery support, and it also allows me to proxy it as a spotter, so my artillery models won't be out in the open and can have a much farther range on the table. To start with the backpack, I won't be using any bits from K47 or bolt action boxes. Instead, I took my brother's bits I so lovingly use without permission, and I grabbed two pouch pieces from the Mark III Space Marine kit and cut one in half to give it its look, then glued both ends together. For the antenna, I thought I would use another Space Marine bit, but found that the antenna on those bits were a little too small and thin. This could cause it to break off when handling, so instead, I used the trusty paper clip and cut it to size. Now to attach it, I used my electrical handheld drill I got from my mom for my birthday. Now be very careful with this unless you have a manual drill piece. So I tried finding any drill bit I had that was small enough to fit in the paper clip and was big enough to fit inside the chuck, which is the piece that holds the drill bit, but only found that a grinder bit could fit, and since I had done some manual drilling with a small drill bit, I started drilling away. Now is the time for you to make sure you have it right side up, as I accidentally drilled it upside down. Thankfully it's not visible from above, but the mistake is still there. So I turned it upright and began to manually drill a pilot hole so the drill bit doesn't veer off and drill me. I began drilling again. Once it was done, I glued the paper clip in. Now for the receiver. Once again, I used my brother's Space Marine bits. Now the receiver bit did belong to a much bigger bit that I don't remember, and I tried finding a right hand, but the only hands that could reach his face was the left hand. So I just glued it onto the left hand. Kind of a blessing in disguise because I found a grenade throwing hand and cut the grenade bit off and glued it in a position where it looked like it was resting. And that's it for the radio operator. Now let's get on with the assistant. Now, in the rules for bolt action, you can take multiple assistants and they can carry weapons, so this was fairly simple. But since these models are from a different era, but put in an army with modern models, I had to use my superior intelligence to think of a way to get the weapon on, and decided to use the M1 Garand holding right hand from the bolt action starter set. Then cut the sling and left hand from the rifle, then glued down an open palm left hand from the Konflikt 47 starter box that thankfully covered up my clipper work, and with that I was done with these models. And now to Prime. These are by far my best kit bashes. I'm really proud of how these models turned out and I'm really happy with them. Now, I'm not painting them yet, as I might use them for a painting video on how I paint my bolt action models, and this also gives me more firepower for my bolt action force and for the new edition of Konflikt 47 coming out on the 27th of this month. But for now, this kit bash is complete, and with that, have a great day or night.